What's up, everybody? Just got back from seeing the newest Blumhouse horror movie, Speak No Evil, so let's talk about it. So, I, like everybody else, has been seeing the trailer for this movie, for the past 6 months or so, pretty much every screening and every movie that I go to. And for me, the trailer didn't look all that great. I felt like it was just a typical Blumhouse horror film, typical cliches when it comes to that. And then I did read, in preparation before this movie came out, that it is a remake of a Danish film that came out only 2 years ago, which I thought was kind of an odd decision. But I did not see that film, and I didn't watch that film going into this movie because I wanted to have my own fresh perspective on this remake, and I didn't want to just compare it to that original film. So, with that being said, what did I think of this film? I thought this film was absolutely fantastic. The reason it worked so well for me is because it did a great job throughout the entire film, setting up a lingering sense of danger and dread throughout the entire film. You would have moments where the protagonist, the family that you're following along, when they meet the other family, with James McAvoy, his wife, and his son. They did a really good job at, giving you little hints that there was something off about this family. But then with James McAvoy's charisma, and then even the charisma of, his wife in the story, it kind of lets your guard down as an audience member along with the main characters, and it kind of just plays that back and forth throughout the entire film, and then it continues to escalate throughout the entire film. So to piggyback off of that point, that all solely works so well because of James McAvoy's performance. I have always been a fan of James McAvoy since Wanted, Professor X. But to me, he is at his absolute best and has the best acting chops when he is playing a psychopath. He proved that with Split and Glass, but he just takes it to another level in this film. Like I said, the entire film, he basically has to balance the line of being charismatic, being a likable guy to lure this family in, but then also having a few things and a few details about him, that let you know, like, hey, something's up with this guy, right? But it's nothing overtly at first. And that just keeps building, and his performance just keeps getting more unhinged as the film goes. And I just felt he killed this. This movie entirely rests on James McAvoy's shoulders, and he completely delivered. I love him in these roles, and I hope he continues to do them going forward. And then I talked about his charismatic side in this film, even though he is very horrifying when the scenes come and the moments where he has to be. He's very charismatic in this film. Yeah, he's a weird, awkward, quirky dude, when he's acting normal, but he's also funny. He has a few moments in this film that got an entire laugh out loud reaction from my audience, and that throughout the whole film that really levitates the moments where you realize something's wrong and there's danger imminent. And it worked in the movie, for the characters, and it essentially let the main characters put their guard down, and it kind of did the same thing for the audience when you were going on a wave of tension. So yeah, I just thought everything with his performance worked so well. And yeah, he whatever credit he's gonna get for this role, I feel like he deserves more. To me, this is a career best from him. And then in those moments where you get the humor, it doesn't break the tension. In some movies, in horror, especially horror movies, they interject humor, and sometimes it can completely, take the steam out of the room when it comes to the tension and the horror aspects. But this film doesn't. It just does it for a moment of relief, and that's it. But it still doesn't break the tension. You realize right after the joke's over, like, oh, we're still in a very uncomfortable and unsettling situation. And I talked about the slow escalation, and I feel like that was utilized very well here. The movie's only like an hour and 50 minutes, but it's one of those movies that it feels like it's 2.5, 3 hours, and it's not in a bad way, right? Like sometimes I feel like when a movie feels too long, it's negatively, a negative impact toward the film. But I really felt like in this film, the fact that it felt long was just indicative of how good they were at, switching the tension and the humor and just kind of getting you right on that edge, and making your heart rate go up and down, and then just bringing it back a little bit. They constantly do that throughout the film. So I feel like I'm exhausted after seeing that film, in a good way. I was like, wow, it was really effective in the way it built tension. And then with that too, I felt like the movie had good commentary on like social etiquette, right, and how people react in certain situations, and this type of things that people will put up with, to avoid coming off rude or anything like that. They also talked about cultural differences, and how that plays into those interactions. And I thought when it said those things, it was just very interesting. It had a lot to say, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I also felt like the way that this movie depicted certain scenes, in order to create tension within the characters, was kind of unique, and felt like something I'd really never seen before. Where it's kind of like a cringy type of tension, where certain things will happen that just make you uncomfortable, but also in a way where like maybe if the characters reacted in a certain way, it would kind of make them seem like they were being rude. And like you kind of saw it in the trailer, there's a scene where the girl clearly states she's a vegetarian, but he feeds her a small piece of lamb anyways. And it plays out longer, obviously, in the movie, than what you saw in the trailer. But just the way that the tension was set in that scene, was just very effective. Yeah, everything with the tension in this film just worked for me in spades. And then the last positive, I really want to talk about is really just more of a recommendation. I would recommend seeing this on opening weekend, with a crowd. The tension that this film builds, the jokes that this film has, is just going to play better and be a more enjoyable experience if you're seeing it in a theater full of people. There was multiple scenes that my theater got reactions out of the crowd. So yeah, to me that is just going to enhance your experience with this film by seeing it with a crowd on opening night or weekend. But yeah, guys, even though I really enjoyed this movie, obviously no film's a perfect film. This film has a few issues for me that bug me. The main one, and the one that I kind of want to rant about a little bit here, I kind of mentioned it at the beginning of the video. This trailer has been being played in the theaters now for well over 6 months. It gives way too much of the plot away. I One of the biggest plot twists, and you probably know if you've watched the trailer, is revealed in the trailer, and the way it's played in the movie, I feel would have been much more effective if you would have saw it for the first time in the film and not in the previews beforehand. So the predictability aspect of this film, at least when it comes to that one reveal, it was not as effective as it could have been. Right. There are other things that happen, in the back half of this film, that weren't in the trailer, which I was grateful for, and there were certain details that were left out, which I was grateful for. But yeah, I really feel like the trailer made a huge mistake by giving away that reveal. And to kind of piggyback off of that one, the plot of this film is pretty predictable. It's nothing about it is that like revolutionary or something that you won't see coming, right? To me though, even though it's predictable, it's all about the execution, and I felt like the execution in this film was flawless. And then with this being a horror movie, we all know, anyone who's a horror fan, common tropes that happen. These characters make a lot of stupid decisions in this film. Any normal person who would be in these situations would not have made half of the decisions that these characters make. So that bugged me a little bit. It kind of just was like, hey, these characters are pretty dumb, and we're just kind of going to go with it at that point. Particularly the dad. He is weak, ineffective, stupid, and overall not a great character. I understand why they did that for the plot, but it didn't work for me, and it fell flat and made everybody here look stupid. But yeah, guys, overall, James McAvoy's performance, iconic, legendary, carries the movie for me, and the tension and the way it was set up in this film, had a great time with it, great theater experience. And the ending as well, I didn't even mention that. The third act was incredible, and the way it ends, fantastic, fantastic. Now I really want to go back and watch the original film, to kind of see how it compares to this one. On a rating scale, though, I am going to give this a 4.25 out of 5. Loved it. Go see it. If you've seen this version, in both versions. Comment below, let me know, and have a great night.